Of the four gospel accounts, Luke records the most parables. It seems to have been a special interest of his, and certainly reflects the belief that he consulted many sources in putting together as complete a picture of the life of Jesus as possible. One of the parables he records that is found nowhere else is about a wealthy landowner who piles up riches for himself. Of course, what prompts the parable is also very important for us to consider. A man shouts out to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Clearly, there's some dispute over how to handle the money from their father's estate, and this is likely the younger brother who knows that his portion of the estate will be smaller than that of his brother. This was not uncommon at the time, especially given that the older brother would be expected to take care of and maintain his father's estate and all those dependent on that estate. While the inheritance of the estate may have been a financial gain, it also came with a great amount of responsibility. Jesus responds to the man, "Who made me a judge or arbiter over you?" And I think Jesus is maybe having a little fun in his statement, given that we know that he will, in fact, be the ultimate source of both arbitration and judgment in the matter of eternity. But still, Jesus turns to the crowd and begins by warning them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." That seems like a pretty clear teaching. In other places in Scripture, Jesus tells his disciples that life is more than food and the body is more than clothing. He says twice in Matthew that it's no good if a man should gain the whole world but forfeit his soul. You see, Jesus isn't against having material possessions, but he does recognize that the accumulation of wealth, the pursuit of financial security, can ultimately result in an individual missing the more important things of life. To communicate this, Jesus continues his teaching. This is Luke chapter 12, starting in verse 16. "And he told them a parable, saying, The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God." Notice the man hasn't even built the barns yet, though he's made the plan to do so. And as he finishes his plan to retire on the spoils he's gained, God tells him that he'll never see another day. What good will any of the abundant grain or the barns he's planned to erect do him in the grave? More importantly, what is his wealth in heaven? The key part of this parable is that in his abundance, the man doesn't consider possibly using the surplus he's gained to bless others. He doesn't consider providing for the poor. His first reaction is to plan for himself and himself alone. Now consider how this devotional began. "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Depending on where we are in life, we may think that this parable is admonishment to the brother who has gained the inheritance to not be selfish with it. Share with your brother as he has need. Or we might think that Jesus is telling the younger brother that he shouldn't desire some part of the inheritance. It wasn't given to you, and fixating on it may cost you your soul. I want to suggest the message is for both brothers, or more importantly, for all of us. What we have, the things God has given us, are intended to be shared. If we have abundance, we shouldn't see that as something to be hoarded. Abundance is not simply for our benefit, it's for the benefit of those around us. If you have extra, share it. If you have a neighbor who has extra, don't fixate on what he has to the point of driving yourself to enviousness. In sharing our blessings with others, we may find ourselves with less in our pocket, but we will also find ourselves more fully blessed by the abundance of heaven in eternity. And if we stop coveting what our neighbors have, we'll be satisfied with what it is that God has already given to us. I love you, and I pray today that you would know the goodness of God's abundance, and that you would give out of your own abundance to bless others.